We'll start.
I'm looking for a record light. Do you see that, or
it's on mine? It says recording in the upper left.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Devin Jackson, and I am a middle school 6th grade science teacher in the Mount Diablo Unified School District, but I also wear the hat as a vice president of Outside the Box 925, which is an environmental literacy nonprofit K through 8 that brings currently virtual, but in the past it was in person outdoor education to teachers, educators within the Mount Diablo Unified School District, surrounding school districts, East County of Contra Costa County, and the 925 area code. And our title today of our session is Composting 101, Empowering Action on Identifying, Learning, Discussing, and Implementing the Basics of Backyard Composting with Teachers and Students, or educators and students. I would like to go ahead and introduce my colleague, who's actually the president.
Yes, thank you. So I'm so happy that Devin has shared the stage today and allowed us to also bring in some nature at the end. So I don't know if we're still able to do that poll. Is that an option?
Yes, we are. So we have a...
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. So we know that we have experts in the room, and that's something we're going to get to and find out too. But I'm president of Outside the Box 925, and so honored to be here amongst our role models. And so we realized that environmental education is something that's really lacking in our county. I don't know if that's been an issue in your county, or how recently you have been able to come in and put environmental education into your curriculum mainstream. But we are really getting the word out and reaching out to like-minded organizations around us. And I think we're on the roll to having environmental education be more visible in our district. And so this is our effort. We've started our nonprofit to find out how we can make this accessible. And we have Mr. Ford here, who's also one of our teachers, and he's going to be joining in with us. I don't know if you can see him on the screen, but he'll be chiming in on the second part.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tasha. And before we get to the poll, I just wanted to give a kind of background about at-home composting. So learn how to turn your spoil into soil, and practice composting demonstrations. Design a worm bin as a model for building one with your students. Increase your knowledge of the biotic and abiotic factors in connection with biodiversity of compost piles, compost bins, and decomposers. This will be a virtual hands-on, but it will also be physical hands-on, because you're going to do some breakout rooms. We are small, this group, but we're going to do some breakout rooms. A little bit of lecture, and then we have some discussion and a round table. And this was a composting webinar series that I did both in April and back in March. And compost is proof that there is life after death. Here is our poll. So I'm going to go ahead and share the poll. And the poll that I will be sharing Let me just make sure I'm supposed to, yes, there we go. The poll that I'm gonna be sharing, it is now launched. And so attendees are now viewing the questions, and there are 2 questions. And the 2 questions are, what are you most interested in learning during this session? What are you most interested in learning during this session? Is it traditional composting?
Mhm.
Is it a vermiculture worm bin? Social justice? Birding and animal identification? Energy alternatives? And or native planting? Because you can actually choose more than one option. And Tasha, would you like to say anything else about the number 1?
No, number 1 looks, I'm already seeing the results. I couldn't participate as a co-host. That's great. And I see the results already. So I think that's pretty straightforward. What about number 2?
Okay, so now number 2 said, please identify your highest level of expertise in one or more of these areas listed above. And so we have a beginner level, somewhere between beginner and intermediate, somewhere between intermediate and advanced, and then what Tasha and I thought was kind of interesting one is self-proclaimed advanced expert. So Tasha, would you like to give just a little bit more background on this question?
Okay, so we didn't want to extend this poll beyond a couple questions. So if you are feeling, I'm not seeing anyone put advanced and self-proclaimed. We were hoping to have a couple of people in the room who would go to that level, and then we definitely would want to refer to you on that topic. But if for some reason you're feeling like you're strong on one of these topics and want to share out, if you just put your name and the area in the chat, we would love to have you chime in when we get to that area. So we definitely want to use the knowledge in the room, and you are welcome to put in your area and your name, and we would connect with you. All right. And also,
Excellent.
and by the way, you're welcome to go ahead and just introduce yourself in the chat. Just let us know who you are, what you're interested in, and we're just so glad you're here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tasha. And I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And you can, the rest of our awesome participants can see the results of the poll. So we have the 67% chose vermiculture worm bin, and also 67% chose the native planting. And then for the identify your highest level of expertise, 67% chose somewhere between intermediate and advanced, and the 33% chose intermediate. So we do have some knowledgeable people here learning and getting some additional information about their composting. Did you want to say anything else, Tasha, before we go on?
Nope, looks good.
Okay.
Just to let you know, so it looks like we're definitely gonna get into the vermiculture bin, and I'm so excited about native planting because I can't think of a better connection between composting than planting. But just to let you know, we really want to emphasize the theme of this conference, which is equality and social justice. So we will definitely be referring to that as well in our presentation.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to lower the poll and make sure that I am sharing the correct screen. Yes, I am. Okay, so as Tasha just mentioned, these are the social justice standards that connect with composting, and also when we do our breakout room, our food waste audit or a refrigerator audit. And so I actually got this social justice standard, diversity 7, because it refers to, I can accurately and respectfully describe ways that people, including myself, are similar and different from each other and others in their identity group. And I connected this with a Contra Costa County Office of Education and STEM for Real organization that really focused on empowering students to recognize that their actions impact our earth and the earth impacts their actions. And also I had a case study student, a young lady that emigrated from France with her family, did not speak very much English. And over the years of being in the United States and being immersed in the language, she did start to learn English, but I still want to make sure as a second language learner, and I wanted to make sure that my students and my case study student was able to understand and engage with the material. And I always really focus on the enter to learn and leave to serve, because you enter education, you enter a webinar, you enter life to learn, and then you leave, well, you leave the other parts, not life, but you leave to serve. And I also like the mantra of think globally, act locally. Think globally, act locally. And this
Devin,
picture here, yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were changing to the next slide.
Nope. And this picture here is actually a Happy Earth Day picture that my case study student drew during one of these composting webinar series and then digitized it. And for her, being green and a certified naturalist are fundamental aspects of her personality, actions, and daily life. Tasha, would you like to add?
Yeah, do you know if you have the control to change the messaging to everyone? Because it seems like the participants message.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes, please.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
Everyone publicly and directly. Is that what we want?
Yes. And by the way, we have Laura in the chat, who's an environmental studies bachelor major with agroecology experience and working with habitat restoration, native birds and plant ID, permaculture, and outdoor environmental education in the room.
Awesome. So I'm not going to go too much
wait a
into.
minute.
Oh.
Hold on. We have
Yes.
Kathy also, who's retired from outdoor education and now working on teaching about native plant landscaping and gardening and composting and chickens as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Welcome, Kathy, and welcome, Laura. Thank you so much. And so this slide is referencing the virtual Earth Day, Earth Month, Food Waste Warrior Green 2-Week Challenge. I'm just going to quickly go through this because I did a workshop this morning on this. This was my naturalist certification with AEOE, but this is the kind of a food waste audit that connects with what we're going to do in the breakout room of a refrigerator audit. But like, have you ever thrown away a meal and like, do you throw away a whole piece of food, apple or loaf of bread? Well, we're going to help you explore your impact on the food system. And then when you do it with your students or when you do it with educators or when you do it with your community, can you brainstorm solutions to reduce your food waste? And so in your breakout room, you're going to do a refrigerator audit. And I did play the Dirt Made My Lunch at the beginning. So that's the Banana Slug string band.
Devin, I'm going to go ahead and put this slide in the chat. So if anybody wants to follow along on the slides, sure, they can do that. Okay.
Good idea. And so I'm going to bypass the results and findings because I want to get to the other parts. So traditional composting. And so why compost? There's many benefits. Reduce erosion, diverse waste from landfill, compost, natural fertilizer, pH, balances the pH of the soil. Compost increases water retention. When it comes to the basic bin and how it's done, there's several different recipes that you can use. One particular recipe actually comes from Recycle Smart and Outside the Box, which is 2 buckets of mixed browns for every bucket of wet organic material. So you can see here that the browns are like leaves and coffee grounds and mulch and well, not mulch because that's the end result. And then the green, the wet is like fruits and vegetables, plants that are still green. And so browns plus greens plus air plus water plus time equals compost. You do want like a 50-50 visual inspection of 30-1. So 30 parts kind of carbon to that of nitrogen. You want a lot of air, and depending on the composter, compost happens. There's another word, but I won't say it. These pictures here, this is my compost bin right here. This is one of my students' compost bin, and this is another one of my students' compost bin. And it is a good idea to have it in a shady location if possible. Here's the vermiculture. This is the Worm Bin Basics 101. And this is the red wigglers. 1 pound is a good start. Set up your bins so that you can feed them about 1/4 food to start. Let them settle in for about a week without feeding. Then make sure to feed them consistently. Make sure to bury their food. And if they already have food, do not give them more because you'll overwhelm them. Also, some good ingredients for your worm bin would be like dry paper, wet paper, the wet paper. Oops, I wrote that twice. And then feed them fruits, vegetables, veggie peelings, bread and pasta, coffee grounds and filters, tea bags, crushed eggshells, and cereal. And you can see down here that there's a bin that I've put, and you do shredded newspaper and then hide the food underneath the newspaper and then dump in your beautiful worms. Actually, don't just like dump them in, lightly put them in. And this is our beautiful red wiggler here, the Eisenia fotida. Make a nice compost recipe. And you can also have this kind of covered bin too, although the hole in there is just showing you the layers.
I'm going to chime in, Devin, since I heard there was extra interest in vermiculture.
Sure.
That I would say as a classroom teacher that this is one of your best bets for actually getting to do compost at school. And so the reason for that is, I don't know if we understand before we get started, is that your vermiculture, they're like your pets. You want to keep them in like a consistent temperature and environment. And so that could even be right in the classroom. A problem can come up, or I think the things that your administrator would be concerned about is, number 1, does it smell? Number 2, are we going to have an issue with rodents or creatures coming in? And I want to let you know that this is like the least possibly smelling compost that you can have. It's really cool, dark place that you're keeping it in. And also you should also keep it sealed because you don't want the worms to get out. So when you keep it sealed, you're putting holes in whatever container that you're using so that they can get nice ventilation. And so really it's one of the most ideal places in your room to be in, or in your garden to be in. And it's totally blocked off from creatures that should come in. So it should not be smelling, and you should not have an issue with creatures. The main thing I think at school is that you can shout out about the benefit of the things we throw away are like paper towels and paper. And so those kinds of things are something that you can compost, and they can put it right into the garden, and you realize that you're reducing your effect on the environment. And really, for kids, these are cool creatures they learn to respect and care about, and they can make observations. So it's a great learning tool to use in the classroom. And also, since that was a highlighted item, I'm wondering if Laura or I've lost your name, or Kathy, is there anything that you'd like to add here? You're welcome to type it in or shout out, and I can share. I mean, I can shout out or type it in, and I can share what you have to offer.
Well, we did do vermiculture at our outdoor school, and we had like, it's kind of like a small school. We had about 100 kids every week. And we found that we kind of had too much food for the worms. Like we had to just keep adding bins and keep adding bins, or else we were overfeeding them. And it took, there was one guy who took it on as a project, and I think it took him a few years to really get it all dialed in. But I think if you did it with just your own classroom, it'd probably be so much more manageable. And like in the house, we just made it out of a 5-gallon bucket because our waste is kind of small. So that's a really like super cheap way to do it too. If you want to have it inside, it's all contained.
Right. Oh, that reminds me too, we had an opportunity to hear from one of our local experts, and I never picked up on, she said it's a good idea to have 2 separate containers in your vermiculture, so that you have one side where they're working on the food. And then when you're ready, you start putting the new food in the other side, and they worm over to the new spot, so that you can actually take the one bin out and dump it into your garden. So there are ways, you don't have to go for the high priced, you're not actually wanting to get a compost bin, you're wanting to get something that's totally contained. You don't need to do this for more than $50 really. You go to Home Depot, get a large container. You have to be able to drill holes in it, and then make sure you can separate your compost into 2 sides, so that one can be the side that goes out, and one can be a new side to start all over again. Thank you so much for sharing. And okay.
So I wanted to let you know that there is some additional information here on like traditional composting and vermiculture composting, some troubleshooting tips, and like smelly fruit flies, nothing's happening, bugs. Actually, those are the most important part of the composting process, unwanted guests. But this one in particular, the problematic browns. When I started my compost bin back in November and then into November of 2020, February of 2021, I remember I put in my old Christmas tree, and I cut it up, and I took the pine needles and I put it in my compost bin. And I was like, uh-oh, for example, pine needles are evergreen and resist decomposition. And sawdust is extremely fine and can plug up your and restrict airflow. Oops. So I learned. I didn't do that again. There's also some information about harvesting, and I promise that you're going to get a link to all of these slides. Plus, there's a slide here that has the hyperdocs for my webinar series, the 3 parts, so you can get more information. And there's even videos that you can go to access. But what I really want to do is right now.
Hold on.
Yeah, wait. So Tasha.
Chat. Oh, sorry. I just missed in the chat comment from Laura. She said, don't disregard the benefits of worm tea, the wet part that develops in the bottom that you can pour out on your plants, and a song that she put in there too. That's all. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. That's okay.
Time.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time and I'm really worried. But I'd like us to be able to, we don't need to do a breakout room since we're small, but I'm going to put a link in the chat, And what I would like to do is give you some time to open up this Google form. And here's what it looks like. It's called the refrigerator audit. So if you're at home, I'd like you to go to your refrigerator and I'd like you to find out, how does your family store food? So just go with, like, if you have a mobile device, or if you can, I'll open it so you can see like what a picture of it looks like. Or if you just want to like read it and then walk to your refrigerator, you're going to go to your refrigerator and look at where you might have dairy. Where do you have meat? Where do you have fruits and vegetables? Where do you have grains? Where do you have other foods? And look to see, are they in the right place? Go ahead.
Devin, I'm on the form right now. Are we supposed to submit a picture of this, or we just go and answer the questions?
Nope. Just answer the
Okay.
questions. Yeah, good question.
Right. Do we have about 5 minutes or less? Be back in 5?
It's up to you. You're the second part.
Okay, so we'll say this should take at most 5 minutes. So you're welcome to turn off your video and go ahead and check out your refrigerator and fill out this form.
And if it's running, you better go catch it. Oh, period number. That. Just choose a random period, please. That's because I do this with my students.
Keeping your fridge at the correct temperature can help your food stay fresh for longer. But certain foods are best kept in specific areas to help them last longer. On the top and middle shelves, place ready-to-eat foods such as dairy products, cooked meats, leftovers, and other packaged foods. On the bottom shelves, place meat, poultry, and fish. Always cover and keep in sealed containers. Place salads, vegetables, and fruit in the salad drawers. Remember to minimise door opening times to keep your fridge at the correct temperature. Find out more at lovefoodhatewaste.com.
Is it safe to eat that poor lonely chunk of cheddar you bought last week? Date labels can let you know what's good, bad, or just plain ugly. You should never eat products after they're used by date. But best before dates refers to quality, meaning they're safe to eat even after the given date. They just may not be at their best. Always check the dates on reduced items for quick sale before you buy. And you should always follow storage instructions to keep your food at its best. Find out the facts at lovefoodhatewaste.nsw.gov.au.
Okay, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go take a picture of my refrigerator.
Keeping your fridge at the correct temperature can help your food stay fresh for longer. But certain foods are best kept in specific areas to help them last longer. On the top and middle shelves, place ready-to-eat foods such as dairy products, cooked meats, leftovers, and other packaged foods. On the bottom shelves, place meat, poultry, and fish. Always cover and keep in sealed containers. Place salads, vegetables, and fruit in the salad drawers. Remember to minimise door opening times to keep your fridge at the correct temperature.
I'm running out of time. So I think we can put the fruit and the vegetables,
Find out more.
like if you answer one,
Waste.com.
then you're good. Go with that. And then go ahead and end up with the protein.
Perfect.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm wondering if we have to answer all the questions before we can submit.
Just type something random in it, and then you can click submit. So I wanted to show you an example of what my refrigerator happens to look like. This is the, as you can see, the door of the refrigerator.
Okay, I'm coming back in at 2:40 and I seriously am running out of time. But I think if you answer the fruit and vegetable just as the same answer, or just say NA, because it looks like we need to fill in all the blanks. But of course, with your students, you would have some more time there.
Yes.
And in the beginning of the session, I know someone was asking about ways to stay in touch. So this is the way we want to have you all connected. As far as I know, Devin, we can connect on this spreadsheet. Is that the case?
Sure. Yeah.
I think so. I don't, maybe I turned my volume off. Sorry. Whoops.
Oh yeah, I was like wondering why
I've
you
been
can't
talking to
hear me,
myself.
Tasha.
Whoops. Okay. So were we able to get results on that?
Would anyone like to share
Do
out?
we get to, oh, do we get to see the results from the spreadsheet?
Would you like me to pull it up? Sure.
Or yeah, that's the nice thing about doing an activity like this, is that you get your kids engaged. And that's something as teachers we really need to figure out with the virtual distance learning. And so you get them engaged, and then again, the added benefit is getting to see the math right away. So we also want to be sure to emphasize the math and language standards. And
So we have dairy, the cheese in the bottom drawer, the milk in the top shelf, sour cream on bottom. We can see that for most people, maybe the dairy was stored in the right place, was 60%, but 40% said yes. For what might you do? Maybe move or use within the expiration date. And then there was grains and cereals. I'm going to move down to the vegetables and legumes. And looks like 60% said maybe that it was stored in the right place. 20% said no, and 20% said yes. And then you could put it in the crisper drawer. Varies depending on where in the fridge you stored it. And then fruit, 40% said maybe, and 60% said yes. So more people said yes for that one. And then for proteins like fish, meat, and nuts, 100% of the people said yes.
Something comes to my mind right now. Devin, on those graphs, are you able to change the way they're displayed? I've never thought to do that. I see like in the upper right-hand side, there's that's just copy.
That's copy chart.
Okay. So something you might want to bring up to students when they do go through this, because I keep seeing pie chart over and over again. That's just how Google chooses to display the data. You could, to make it more interesting, you could ask them, is there another way, or which way might you want to show different kinds of results? And especially if you have two answers, I would say maybe a bar graph would be something that you would want to use instead, just to get them to thinking about the math side of these things.
Okay, so Tasha,
Okay.
we have 1 minute, so I would like to see, I
I
know,
knew this would happen.
yeah. So,
Okay,
what would you
well-
like to do?
So I remember that the other big topic of interest is native planting, and you can't get a better connection between composting than native planting, because I know that the title of the area we're working in is empowering action. And so we really want to connect that when we do the right thing, like composting, we make the fertilizer, you put the fertilizer out on the plants, you are keeping carbon dioxide from getting into the environment, you're pulling it out of the environment. And so just really getting that hands-on exposure for kids, that everything you do every day makes a difference. You are an important part of solving the world's issues with every choice that you make. And as a group, we can make amazing changes. And so we like to show this in a variety of types of lessons. So composting, native planting, bird watching, and energy, of course. And oh, we just had so much more we wanted to share with you. But you do have access to these slides. And so one more thing is, I know we wanted to stay connected, is that, were we doing that on the spreadsheet, Devin? That, or,
Well,
because we're
you
all
could
on
also,
that spreadsheet?
you could do it in the chat. I mean, if you like,
If you get the spreadsheet responses and just put that in the chat, we should all be on that spreadsheet. All of our emails will be recorded there.
there we go.
There we go. Perfect. And so feel free to make a copy of that. And we hope to stay connected and keep each other in tune to all the awesome things that are going around. And I guess we need to, I mean, another thing we wanted to do was the neighborhood bingo. And we got that idea from our local clean water program. So if you're still finishing out the year with virtual and Zoom learning, just please be aware that there's so many just basic kind of interesting things that you can do to let your kids get out and get around and then come back and share. And another thing is we're so proud to have been participating in our Contra Costa County Environmental Education Initiative. And our leader, Hannah Ma, has really been pushing and making sure that we include social justice standards. So we just want to make a shout out to her for really pushing us to do that, because of course we focus on the environment, but it's a huge miss if you're not focusing on where your students come from and making sure they're aware of all the people in the room and are able to make those personal connections to each other. So I love how Devin talked about really focusing on food and how this can help bring students together in his environmental justice, his social justice standard. I also taught about energy and talked about the book, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, which was just a great way, I feel, to bring energy close to the heart of students and help them understand why it's so important to learn about different kinds of energy. There's one more slide in here about our partners, and I can't emphasize the importance of connecting to the people around you. And so I see a partner showed up here, and I'm so proud to have those kinds of connections, because we're just a little business. And I know there are other little businesses out there, but the more you reach out, we've only felt open arms from the people around us that we want to bring kids out into the environment and really open up their hearts to what they love already and really help them understand that they have the capacity to learn all the things they need to know to help us make this world a better place. And so please be sure wherever you're from that you connect to those people around you, because they're there to help you get out there and do the best thing for you and the kids. That's about, I've had a mouthful, told a mouthful there. So
Thank
thank you. Please stay in touch.
Yes, thank you all. I
you.
just put the contact information outside the box 925@gmail.com into the chat. And
Thank you
thank you
both.
all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Laura. Okay, officially stopping recording in 3, 2, 1, stop.